you're watching this video, you might be having a hard time reaching your audience on LinkedIn, or you're just trying to stand out from all the noise that you see on there. Well, I'm going to break down a tried and tested content strategy that will help you and your content get in front of the people you want to speak to. Hi, my name is Parna, and I'm a social media marketer that helps purpose-driven brands make an impact. Before we start getting into our content strategy, we're going to review what not to do on LinkedIn. Number one, not be salesy or self-promotional. It's self-explanatory, it gives people the ick. Number two, only sharing the positives of your business building journey or your business or your brand, etc. People want to see the real authentic you, and that means you show the positive and the negatives. And number two, only sharing about your services, your products. Again, this ties back a little bit to point number one, where being only self-promotional. People want to actually hear what your thoughts are. They want to learn about your experience on LinkedIn. To implement the content strategy that I want to share with you, you need to start seeing your audience as the hero. They must come first. Always. With anything you create on LinkedIn, you have to keep them in mind. You want to think about these following questions. Who do you want to attract to your page? What do they want to read? What are they interested in? What types of content are they already commenting and sharing on their LinkedIn? You want to really lean into getting to know your audience first and understanding them and their interests and their passions before you start implementing the content strategy I'm about to share. As you're trying to reframe your thinking about the content you want to share, where you're putting your audience first, you also want to forget about the funnel. We do not want to think about the funnel when we're trying to implement this content strategy. Simply put, we want to think, let's spill the tea. So what do I mean by spilling the tea? Well, spilling the tea is actually the content strategy or the framework that I'm going to be sharing in this video of how to create content for LinkedIn. So when we look at the T model, T stands for telling your story, E for educating an audience, and A, ask. This is a very simplified framework that helps you create content, engage, and grow your audience on LinkedIn. So let's get started. First step, tell your story. Simply put, people connect with faces and stories more than facts and figures. So as much as you do all the work to paint the picture with facts, figures, research, you have all the information on your side, that's great, but people are not going to care unless you can tie that information back to an experience, to a story, or to a specific person and sharing their story. When you're trying to tell your story, you want to be able to describe your impact or describe the problem. You want to focus on painting the picture through a story or through an experience. What does telling your story look like on LinkedIn? Well, first, you can share your mission and vision. I'm sure if you're just starting your brand or starting your business, you may not have all the stories to share about the impact you've made. So why not start off by sharing your mission and vision and the behind the scenes of as you're trying to build this brand, things you are doing, people you're connecting with. That's a good starting point if you're in the beginning stages of building your brand on LinkedIn. Now, if you're a bit more established as an organization and you do have real stories, you want to share those stories. You want to share testimonials from people who've participated in your program or service or benefited directly from the donations from everyone who gave for your organization. You want to talk about the impact you've created over the last 6 months or in the last project that was successful. You want to post about real people who were impacted by your work. That's the point of sharing personal stories or testimonials. If you're like, Parna, I can't be bothered to sit down and look at my mission and vision and try to create content from that, or you don't really have impact stories, when you're scrolling on LinkedIn, you'll come across many stories in your industry or that's trending topics that are happening. Why not just reshare that story with your opinion? So you're able to share your opinion with the help of a story. So these are 3 ways you can get started in telling your story on LinkedIn. Now you were like, okay, Parna, I understand. I'm going to tell my story, whether it's sharing a testimonial or sharing my opinion, but how should I do it? Well, one, you can simply just write your thoughts. LinkedIn is a written and visual platform, so you have options to just write a post and with no image, no graphic. If you want to take it to the next level, you'll definitely want to share a graphic or a picture. I always recommend adding a face or people in the picture because, again, people connect with people, and when scrolling on LinkedIn, people are more likely to stop for a picture with a person in it versus a numbers or an infographic. If you have the capacity, why not take it to even next level and start doing a video? LinkedIn is now really pushing for video, so you can definitely create a reel and reshare that on your LinkedIn. Number 2, educating your audience. Educational content should be a key component of your content strategy because on LinkedIn, users really value insight, information, and research, and data. So education is not something you should take out of your content strategy. It's actually something you want to really incorporate. And education is the easiest way to build trust and authority on the platform to establish your organization or yourself as a leader on LinkedIn. You want to be able to explain the problem you're solving. You want to discuss the problem you're solving. We now went from describing your impact or describing the problem that you're solving to now explaining and providing more details to understand the nitty-gritty of why this is an issue, why people should care, why they should invest with you, or why they should take your services. So I want you to see it as we painted the big picture by telling the story, and with education, we're now giving more context, more details, and making them understand the bigger picture overall. How are we going to do this? There's a few ways you can do it, but the easiest way to do is sharing tips, stats, and research. And yes, I know I mentioned in part 1 that you don't want to just share facts and figures, but when facts and figures accompany people or a story, it elevates it a lot more than just sharing simple facts and figures. So that's why this is part 2 of our strategy. Some content ideas are 3 tips to simplify your hiring process, 2 tips of how you can reduce your carbon footprint, or how to create a LinkedIn content strategy. It's just information that you know and you're an expert in. Outside of sharing tips and stats and research, you can also take the time to break down a complex topic through a carousel post or through a LinkedIn article to help add to that story and to help paint that picture more vividly. A key tip here, what I want y'all to know is that you don't want to do information overload, 1, and 2nd, you always want to end an educational post with a question or some sort of prompt to encourage dialogue in your comment section or resharing, or etc. You don't want to just talk to them, you want to talk with them. And this brings us to number 3, ask. When it comes to asking, it can go one of 2 ways. Either you ask too much or you don't ask at all. So we need to find a good balance and what kinds of content we can recreate that's not so overly self-promotional. Remember, we don't want to give the egg, but also doesn't just undersell us and not get us the leads that we really want from LinkedIn. How do you effectively ask on LinkedIn? 1, you want clear call to actions. Every post you make should have a call to action. In the education section, we talked about how you want to ask a question because that's a call to action to start a discussion. In telling your story, you definitely want a call to action at the end to either for them to visit your website, sign up for your newsletter, or to even reach out to talk about how they can be a part of your project or your business or donate, etc. Remember, it is important to be specific. You need to be explicit with everyone. Nothing implicit really works on social media. If you want someone to click something, you say click here. If you want someone to subscribe, you ask subscribe here. You do not want to be vague or implicit. Another way is posting engagement questions. There's a poll feature on LinkedIn. Why not, again, start discussion, start a dialogue, and actually gauge what your audience is interested in, what they want to really hear from you. So why not share an engagement poll? Lastly, my favorite way of asking is actually sharing or announcing updates and progress about your brand or your organization or what you're working on. And then at the end of it, be like, if you want to be part of this impact, send us an email. Send me an email. Announcement or an update of what you're working on or the progress that you're making actually adds more context to that painting that you're already painting about your brand, the problem you're solving, and the impact you're making, and entices people like, okay, wait, like I guess this project is having momentum. This is something I want to be a part of. And then you have that call to action at the end. Here, you really want to avoid just always asking, donate now, sign up now, etc. You want to try and test different call to actions and see what's really landing with your audience. That's how you spill the tea on LinkedIn. It's a simple framework for you to help create content and start engaging with your audience. However, the next 3 tips I'm about to share are crucial for you to grow your presence on LinkedIn. 1, consistency. We hear about this all the time. It's plain and simple. It's just like when you go to the gym, you start seeing results when you're consistent. On your LinkedIn, when you start creating content, you want to be consistent. So please choose a cadence or a posting schedule that works with your schedule or with your capacity. This can be maybe just posting 2 times a week, which I highly recommend for just maintenance or a very minimal growth. You want to tell your story and educate your audience. Now, if you have a little bit more capacity, 3 times a week, ideal. You can tell, educate, and ask. Now, if you have even more capacity or you have a whole marketing team for you to support you with the strategy, then go for it. You want to post 4 times a week. I would say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday is usually a write-off. So if you want to maybe put more of your post that's kind of like an ask, or you really don't care about the performance of it, then it can go up on Friday. Number 2, you want to experiment. I understand we want to first start off with what makes our lives easy in creating this content strategy and implementing it and being consistent with it. But over time, you want to experiment, because sometimes if you keep creating the same types of content, it can get a little stale and it actually can limit your reach and impressions. And that's not what we're trying to do when we're spilling the tea. Lastly, engagement is key, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, and if you have a little bit more time, 15 to 20 minutes, that's all it is. After posting or whenever you have time in your schedule, be sure to engage in comments that are on your post, but also you proactively engage with other industry leaders or other industry pages, so you start being relevant and you start showing up in other people's feeds just simply by commenting, and then that person likes your comment, or they come start searching for you and they see all the content and all the tea you're spilling, and then they want to be a part of that. Everyone talks about community management and engagement, and it can be a little bit of a daunting task, but I'm telling you, just 5 minutes is more than enough if you're doing absolutely nothing. Ideally 15 to 30 minutes, but again, we'd rather start with 5 than nothing at all. I cannot wait to see you all start implementing the T model in your LinkedIn content strategy. If you have any questions or want to do a bit of a brainstorm session in the comments, I am more than happy to. So leave a comment below with your questions, or if you want to start working on a content idea or a strategy, let's get to it. Let's get to work and let's start growing on LinkedIn. This is our year. Let's go. And remember, stay kind, stay driven. Thank you so much.